Welcome to Must Be Tuesday. I'm your host, Stephanie Mitchell Gould, and this is
Willow.
Anyanka. And we are going to be talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We are doing a rewatch. This is only her second time watching the show. I have watched it many a times. We started off with season 1, episode 1, Welcome to the Hellmouth. This was written by Joss Whedon and directed by Charles Martin Smith. So we had the opening sequence, which she did not 100% remember, right?
I remember it.
You remembered the vampire thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was for exposition, so you could learn a little bit more about the show when it first started. So they open with the sequence, and then they span to the library, and there's a break-in at the school, right? And what was your prediction for the
dude's gonna get bitten.
The dude's gonna get bitten by a vampire. Did you remember that, or did you just know that?
I knew it.
You just knew it?
I just guessed.
You just guessed? And then I was like, who's that guy that gets bit by Darla? He looks real familiar. And that's because he was in a bunch of 90s commercials. Did you know that? I looked him up. Yeah. I was like, wow, man. Okay. You don't really know what commercials are, do you?
I know what commercials are.
So, there was an original Willow in the pilot. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And then they recast it. Yeah. It's pretty nice, because I like Allison Hannigan better. What do you think? The current Willow. The correct Willow.
I don't even know what the Willow is.
Yeah, you can find it online. You can find the pilot with the original Willow on it. And then it cuts to the scene of Buffy dreaming in her room. And what did you say about that?
Insomnia.
Insomnia. Do we suffer from insomnia?
Badly.
And then then Joyce comes in.
Yeah, Mom is not dead.
I guess we're going to be doing spoilers. So there will be spoilers, because she likes to make jokes about things that are to come. And then she starts her first day off at Sunnydale High, right?
Mm-hmm. And then I appear.
And then Mom says, try not to get kicked out this time, when she's dropping her off in the car, right? Mm-hmm. And then you appear. Yeah. Willow appears. And then Xander is skateboarding. And I'm going to have to remember if he ever does this again, because I don't remember if he ever skateboarded again in the show. That was like the first and only time I ever saw him skateboarding. And he's a klutz. He's so clumsy, right? So, and then he calls Willow, he says to Willow, to Jesse, I think it's to Jesse, that he would like Buffy to be his study buddy, in quotation marks.
I think he asked Willow to be study buddy.
No. He was talking about Buffy. Definitely talking about Buffy. So, then he tells her to go to the library, because she needs books, right? That's called a plot device, right? And then you get Jesse, and he goes, new girl, nice, right? And my original thought on Jesse was that he's going to probably be in the show more. And the fact that he wasn't was kind of like, oh, okay. But then I think there was also a thing saying, hey, these characters, even though they've been, like, Xander and Jesse have been friends for years, we can kill them. Right? Yeah. And then Buffy is in Flutie's office, and he tears up her permanent record, right?
Yeah, he's too nice.
He's too nice? Well, then he starts taping it back together after he reads that she burnt down the gym. Do you know what the reference to the burning down of the gym is? That's a reference to kind of throw back to the movie. Because she burns down the gym-ish, kind of, but not really. But there's vampires.
Buffy is an arsonist.
Buffy's an arsonist. Okay, I like that. And then she goes, that gym was full of asbestos. Which, what is asbestos again?
It's a very toxic substance to keep stuff from burning too easily.
I know. And she lit it on fire. The irony. And then she does the walk of shame out of the principal's office, because she had a great meeting with him and all. And she drops her steak. And then what happens next, Willow? Come on, you got this one. Who's being awkward?
Xander.
Xander's being awkward. Yep. He's being real awkward. And then he goes, hey, you dropped your steak, right? Yeah. And then it cuts to her class. And what are they talking about in her history class, Willow?
The Black Death.
The Black Death, the Black Plague, yeah.
Plague Doctor.
The Plague Doctor is what you were, yeah. And then Buffy meets Cordelia. And Cordelia is really nice to Buffy. She actually helps her out in her class.
I also wrote down Steve.
Steve, yeah, she called on Steve to answer the question in the class. The teacher did.
So I wrote it down.
Yeah. You just like the name, Steve?
Steve.
All right. And then Cordelia's talking to her as Buffy walks out of the classroom, and they keep going. And then she says how she would love to live in LA because she wants to be that close to that many shoes. And I immediately think of the Shoes song from the early 2000s.
Shoes.
Oh my God, shoes. Let's get some shoes. And then there's a Softer Side of Sears reference, which cracks me up every time, that Cordelia makes to Willow at the water fountain. Remember that? Because Cordelia is kind of the mean girl, right? At school. Do you have a mean girl at your school?
No.
No, not really. And then she asks Buffy asks, like, where is the best place to hang out? You know, where you kids go? And then the Bronze is mentioned, right? And she says it's in the bad part of Sunnydale. I had to crack up at that one because there are bad parts of Sunnydale. I think all the parts of Sunnydale are probably bad because there's so many
Especially
vampires.
the school.
Yeah.
Like they have the heck mouth under them.
They have the hell come out. Yeah, I know.
Like
right?
directly under them.
Right underneath them, right? And then they go into the library.
And then Giles.
And then it goes to, look at my giant red circled article. Look at the death and destruction in this town. And then Giles comes out and he whips out the vampire book, right? And he lays it down and says, this is what you're looking for. And then it freaks her out and she runs out of the library like, no, I don't want that. Because that's how I got kicked out of my last school, right? That's how she got kicked out, right? And then the guy falls out of the locker.
Yeah,
like,
those birch trees got what they deserved.
They did?
Mm-hmm. The dead guy came out of the closet.
Yeah, the dead guy came out of the closet. Yeah. But he falls out of the locker and he falls on Aurora, which is one of Cordelia's friends. And we had a small discussion in the car about Aurora that, you know, there's a lot of white people in early 90s shows, and there's not a whole lot of color, and Aurora is a person of color. And that was like noted to me that one of the only people of color then has a dead body dropped on her. It's kind of messed up, isn't it? Yeah. And then we have awkward Xander again, right? Because Cordelia comes out and talks to them about the dead guy in the locker, right? Mm-hmm. And then Jesse is spot on when he says some of these things to them. And then she says that there is a stake because she needs it for self-defense because pepper spray is so passe, right?
So passe.
So passe.
Defense.
And then Cordelia starts talking to them about the dead guy they find in the locker, found by her friend Aurora. And then Buffy keeps asking all these questions about the dead guy. And then Cordelia retorts, morbid much, right? I thought that was pretty funny. Okay. We're still talking.
I know.
Okay. And then Cordelia asks, what's your deal? Like, why are you being so, like, why do you want to know so much about this dead body? And then we cut to the locker room where, you know, just a random teen girl breaking into the locker room to check out a dead body. Do you think that's normal? No? Oh, okay. And then she goes to Giles, and then she says, I don't care about vampires, right? And then she goes, why am I still talking to you, right? And then he goes, well, you're the Slayer. You should know these things. And he tries to get into a little exposition about the history of Sunnydale and all the weird occurrences. Then she mentions, do you have the Time Life series? And I thought that was pretty funny because you don't even know what the Time Life series is, do you? No. You're not a big magazine reader, are you?
No.
Okay.
I prefer books.
You prefer books? And then she says what?
I'm retired.
She's a retired slayer at 16, right? What it would be like to retire from your work at 16, right?
You can't retire like that. That's not how the world works.
That's not how it works. And then she, you know, she gets in an argument with Giles, and then she goes, why can't I? Why can't I retire? I just don't want to deal with it right now. And then she's asking, what do you need to prepare me for? Because she's already lost so much from her old school. She's just starting fresh, and she doesn't want to lose more. And little does she know, right?
Little does she know. Then you died 3 times.
Right? And then, oh no, who heard them having this conversation, Willow?
Zan.
Yeah, Zan did hear them with this conversation. And then he says it's getting worse. And then Giles says this, something's coming. It's getting way worse. So, and then she says, how bad of an evil can there be?
Then you die 3 times.
Exactly. There you go again. Yeah. And then we shoot down to the underbelly where Luke is stating his weird spooky stuff, right? And he says, the sleeper will awake. And then we cut back to the house with Joyce and Buffy. And then Joyce is saying, we can really make this work. And then she talks about the gallery. Do we ever see the gallery in the show?
No, it never happens. The gallery is never mentioned ever again.
No, the gallery is mentioned lots of times, but we never see it. Right.
The gallery is never there. It just doesn't exist.
Because they're looking for a space. So she moved to this town to open a gallery with no space already ahead of time?
I think so.
Oh, okay. The cat is on crack apparently. So, and then she goes, you just fell in with the wrong kind, is what her mom said to her. And to me, I internally go, what is that? Vampires? She fell in with the vampires? I thought that was pretty funny. And then they go off to the Bronze Willow. And who's following her?
Agent
Booth. and he's stalking her, right?
Yeah.
Down the creepy alley.
He needed to get back to Bones already.
Yeah, he did get back to Bones already. And then he says, you're standing on the mouth of hell. And he says, get ready for the harvest. Right?
How lovely.
How lovely. And then he tells her, I'm a friend. Right? Do you think he's a friend? You don't know? And then he gives Buffy a giant cross necklace. He tosses it to her, right? And then I also noticed a detail when we cut into the Bronze, when she gets into the Bronze, that they're taking cover, and I don't think they always took cover. This is one of the only times I can clearly remember them taking cover, but maybe I just need to go back when I rewatch and just kind of try to pay attention how many times they actually take a cover at the door, because I know you've never been to a club, but some clubs have a cover and some don't. Some nights have a cover and some don't. If it's a popular band, sometimes that club will have a cover and sometimes they won't. And is that too much for you? Okay. And then the band is playing, and I did look up who the band was, Willow. It's called Sprung Monkey. That's what the band was. Okay? Sprung Monkey. And then Willow talks about how her and Xander used to date. What did he steal from her?
Her Barbie.
And then they broke up.
Such a terrible crime.
Terrible crime. And then Buffy says to Willow, my philosophy is life is short.
Then you die 3 times.
Seize the moment, because tomorrow you might be dead. Yeah.
Then you die 3 times.
Exactly. And then she looks up and she's like, why the hell is Giles here, right? Why is there a librarian just hanging out where all the kids hang out? Is this just the only hangout spot in the entire town?
Maybe.
Maybe
It's just a really boring town.
Maybe it is. And then she tells Giles about the creepy dude in the alley and the harvest. And he has no idea who this creepy dude is, right?
Booth.
Yeah. And then she says, I really didn't like him. He was dark and gorgeous in an annoying way.
Stalker?
Yeah, right? And then Giles says, I know about the nightmares. So he knows about her insomnia, right? Nice. And then Jessie is rejected by Cordelia at the Bronze because he approaches her, asks her to dance, and she says, not in your life, basically. And then she goes up to the balcony to talk to Giles. And then they play what? They play Where's Waldo of Vampires, right?
Has to use her spidey sense.
Use her spidey sense?
Use
Is it
the
tingling?
voice.
Yeah. And then I loved this song kind of playing in the background where they were talking. So I looked up what that song was. It's called Swirl, and it is by Sprung Monkey as well. And then she then points out, she goes, there's one, it's talking to that girl. And who's the girl that he's talking to?
Me.
Willow. Oh no, Willow is seizing the moment, right? And then she breaks off a stool leg from the back area. Fuck that stool, right? And then she grabs that so she can use it as a stake. Then she goes around the corner, and then who does she run into?
Cordelia.
And then what she say to her? What's your childhood trauma?
Just wait for the trauma ahead.
Yep, just wait for that trauma ahead, because there is a lot of trauma ahead. And then she said, after she got done with Buffy, she goes, excuse me, I need to call everybody I've ever met. So she's going to ruin Buffy's reputation within one day of her starting her new school, right? And then she says, my social life is on critical to Giles, right? And then Jesse is talking to Darla now, right? Right? Yeah? Reggie, that's right. And the master is rising from the giant pool of blood down.
Doctor Who?
I know, right? Doctor Who. And then the guy is clearly annoyed when he's taking her, Willow, clearly annoyed at Willow when he's taking her from the bronze to the cemetery to go into that mausoleum. He's like, can you just be quiet now? And the vampire knows the shortcut to the ice cream parlor.
Do we have ice cream?
I don't know if you have ice cream in the house.
Okay.
And then there's some exposition from Xander about the Slayer to Buffy. What are you, the Slayer? And then Buffy goes, what, does everybody know? Right? Does everybody know? And then Darla enters the crypt, right? And then, oh my god, Jesse has a hickey. What did she do to his neck? He's gonna become a vampire. And then they all vamp out, right? And everybody freaks out. Right? Luke is there. But Buffy enters into the crypt before Luke is there, before Luke comes out. And she says a lot of quips, right? Very punny, right? And then
funny.
So punny. And then she talks about DeBarge, which I found hilarious.
What is DeBarge?
We'll have to talk about that later. I'll have to remember what it is and look it up. I remember it from like the back of my head, but it's like not coming out right now. It's just one of them things, you know? The 90s were weird. And then she says we're going to do this the hard way. And then she tells Xander to run. And I, used a line from The Lion King and I said, run, Xander, run.
Run.
Yeah, right? And then behind Buffy pops out Luke. And Luke is super strong. I know, right? Luke is really strong. And then all the other people are surrounded by vampires. That's another joke I made in congruency with the Lion King. And I go, I'm surrounded by vampires.
I don't get it.
It's like I'm surrounded by idiots, like Scar. And then he body slams her into the coffin. Lovely. And then we have the jump onto the coffin and then a bite scare. And what happens at the end? Cliffhanger. So now we have to wait until the harvest. Right? So what were some of your thoughts on the show, Willow? On the first episode? Quit playing with the kitty and answer the question. Was it nice seeing the characters again for the first time? Was it nice before they all had all that trauma?
They need therapy.
They do need therapy. Yeah, probably a lot of therapy at the end.
So much therapy.
So much therapy. They'll like have them on speed dial, right? Yeah. So, what made you want to rewatch Buffy? You don't know? Did you like it the first time we watched it?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part about it? I can tell you mine.
What?
My favorite part was having a very women-centric character who is strong, independent, and can do things for herself. That was what I liked about it. Because a lot of times you get like TV shows and there's a damsel in distress. There's not really a strong female like protagonist who's just gonna whip everybody's butts, right? Who is strong and who can hold their own. And that was such a different kind of thing than what was normally on TV back in the 90s. It was really different. We didn't have a lot of people like I talked to you in the car about, there wasn't a lot of people of color in television. There wasn't a lot of people that were gay or bisexual or anything like that in TV. And Buffy was a lot of firsts for that. Like, it completely changed the landscape of television. So, it also was one of the first TV shows to have the musical episode. It started it all. So,
Brooklyn Nine-Nine should have had a musical episode.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine should have had a Brooklyn. Yeah,
They can sing.
They can. They can. Would you like to add anything else?
No.
Do you think this was a great discussion?
Yeah.
And how often are we going to do this? You don't know? Just when we can, right?
Yeah.
We'll have to watch the next episode. I'll have to take time to release them as I can. Even though this is called Must Be Tuesdays, we might not release on every Tuesday. We might release a couple times a week. We don't know. Just as we have time to watch an episode at a time, make our notes, discuss our notes a little bit as we make them, and then go on to the next episode. What do you think, Willow?
Steffi speaks for me.
Steffi speaks for you. Okay. So we're going to say our goodbyes.
Bye-bye.
You're going to... How do you want to exit it? We have to have a thing when we leave.
Bye-bye.
You just want to say bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
Okay. So we're just going to say bye-bye. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you all for listening to us. We'll see you again for the next episode. And ready?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.